Good morning, Elko Middle School students. This month's character lesson is called Responsibility, Owning Your Actions. So growth mindset and responsibility. I know we talked about growth mindset last month, but I want to make sure that we are understanding how a lot of these character lessons and topics are tied in together. So as a class, pause and discuss, what does it mean to have a growth mindset? Some of you may have said something similar to what you learned last month. Believing your abilities can be strengthened and developed through hard work. It is about your effort instead of your natural ability. Now pause again to discuss as a class, what does responsibility mean to you? The definition of responsibility is being accountable for your actions or an obligation or a duty. But some of you guys may have given specific responsibilities that you have, such as doing your work, like your classwork or homework, or taking care of a pet. Pause again and discuss, how does taking responsibility for your actions help foster a growth mindset? This might have been simple for some and not for others, but essentially, if you are responsible for your actions, you are therefore in control of your actions, and then you can work harder to achieve a goal. So if you have a growth mindset, it is also likely that you take a high level of responsibility for the things that you do. As a class, pause and name as many things as possible that you are responsible for. Some examples you might have come up with are classwork, homework, sports, cleaning, pets, other chores. Some of you may feel like you only have a few responsibilities as a middle schooler. Others of you might feel weighted down by your responsibilities. Pause again and discuss, what are some challenges you face with these responsibilities? Some ideas you might have come up with are motivation. It can be hard to get yourself motivated to do all the things you need to do. Having enough time. I know some of you are very busy balancing one or multiple sports with your schoolwork. It can be challenging to get everything done. And procrastination. We've talked about this the past couple of months. Sometimes when we're overloaded with work or we're at home by ourselves, we tend to procrastinate some of our responsibilities, which then leads to us either not doing them or doing them late. Now pause and discuss again, what are some strategies you use to follow through with your responsibilities? Some ideas you might have are keeping a schedule, or in the case of online learning, following the schedule that is set for you. Rewarding yourself. So if you do a really nice job doing all your responsibilities for the week, taking time to encourage yourself and remind yourself how awesome you're doing. Making hard work a habit. The more you are responsible, the more responsible you will become. And for some of you, you might have the benefit of parental reminders. Some of your parents might see that you have schoolwork to do or remind you to do your chores around the house. So it's important to understand your responsibilities, the challenges to those responsibilities, but then also make sure that you are making a plan or coming up with strategies to ensure that you are successful following through with those responsibilities that you have. What responsibility looks like or doesn't look like.
PBIS responsibility, a la schmuck. Our buddy Dan here is the president of his school's Interact Club. As president, Dan's in charge of scheduling a monthly trip to volunteer at a local soup kitchen. He's supposed to send out a schedule, organize rides, buy the food, and collaborate with the soup kitchen. He's supposed to do that. But Dan's not used to being in charge of, well, anything. He figures someone else will take charge and everything will be just fine. Like, his mom always does his laundry, cleans his room. Yeah, like that kind of guy. That's how it's always worked in the past, so why not work now? Well, the day of the event rolls around and 3 out of 20 people show up. Hey, that's what happens when you forget to send out a schedule, bud. Dan thinks he can make do, though, and asks whose car they're taking. Oh, strike two, Dano. Remember how you were supposed to organize rides? Yeah, it looks like you should have done that because no one here has a car. Well, Dan refuses to get discouraged. He rounds up his ragtag group and finds a bus to the soup kitchen. He gets there and strike three. He's forgotten to collaborate with the soup kitchen staff. They're not expecting him today, and, well, they have other things on their agenda. They offer use of their kitchen, though, and your group decides to cook for whoever happens to be there. Bring on the food. Wow. Okay, yeah, strike four? Is that a thing? Well, Dan the man didn't buy any food. Sorry, guys. No soup for you. Yeah, remember that. Dan and his group head back, discouraged and disgruntled. Remember how everything always worked out in the past? Yeah, there's a reason for that Danny boy. It's called responsibility. Mom, you shouldn't have done all his laundry and cleared his dinner plates. All right. Well, when the next trip to the soup kitchen rolls around, Dan has planned. He's also somehow kept his position as president. Politics. He checked everyone's schedules and sent out a few reminders that the event was coming up. How hard is it to click send on that email? Yeah. He made sure he knew who had a car and would be willing to drive. He bought the food ahead of time. He communicated with the soup kitchen staff to make sure their clients knew about the event. And once there, he kept everyone's spirits up with his optimism and charm. This time around, the event's a success. Dan organized everything well and provided cheerful motivation and clear direction to his fellow club members. Nice. Looks like Dan's figured out responsibility. Responsible people can be trusted to get stuff done. Now that Dan's proven himself, his club has faith in him and trusts that he'll always be prepared to take care of business, and that's a pretty neat feeling. Almost as neat as soup for everyone. Soup. PBIS responsibility.
One quote that really stuck out to me in this video was, responsible people can be trusted to get stuff done. That's your reputation. So if you are someone who exhibits responsibility, other people know that you can be trusted to do the things that they might ask you to do, including your parents. Pause and discuss what went wrong when Dan first scheduled, or maybe didn't schedule, the monthly soup kitchen activity. Some of the things that went wrong were he did not send the schedule, organize rides, or have food ready. So essentially, they couldn't do their activity at all. But luckily, as you heard in the video, he kept his position as president and had the chance to try again. So pause and discuss again. What did Dan do to make sure he was more responsible the next month? Some answers might be he had a schedule, he sent reminders, had transportation, the food was ready. You saw him engaging the other volunteers, thanking them for coming, encouraging them. So you see the two situations butted up against each other. In situation one, Dan was not responsible at all. And maybe it's because his mom tended to do all of the household responsibilities that could have been his. But luckily for Dan, he was able to learn from that and become more responsible. Now, if you're someone who maybe your parents still do a lot around the house, maybe you want to tackle a few more chores. Excuses. How to stop making them. So excuses can get in the way of taking responsibility for your actions. So watch this video and learn how to stop making excuses and own your actions.
We've all heard it. It's not my fault. She did it first. I forgot. It's not my job. These are all excuses. Excuses just blame others so we don't have to be responsible for what we did. Here's what I say. It's time we own what we do and start taking responsibility. How can we do that? Well, today we've got 3 things we can do to stop making excuses and start owning our actions. I'm Morgan, this is Rocket Kids, and let's get this started. Okay, I know what you're saying, but Morgan, sometimes it really isn't my fault. I get what you're saying. I do. But I say, yeah, it is your fault. Hold on. Okay, stay with me here. You are you. Everything you do is you doing it, not someone else. It's you. Everything I do is me doing it. Yeah, that's me. If I slide down a muddy hill in my new clothes or get a bad grade on a test, that's me that did that. I might say, Sally made me go down that hill, or Sarah has my math book so I couldn't study. The truth is, Sally and Sarah didn't have anything to do with it. So stop blaming and start owning. Number 1, own your part. Something happened, no matter whose fault you may think it is. And now you have to explain it to an adult why you did what you did. That's so not fun. We can blame someone else, but you are part of this. So you need to take a step back, think about what happened, and look at what part you took in it. Here, tell me what you think of this. One kid swipes a toy from another kid. So what does the other kid do? He kicks the other kid. You may say that that kid deserves to be kicked. He swiped the toy. But let's take a step back. 2 things happened. One kid swiped a toy. The other kid responded by kicking. Did both kids do something? Yes, they did. So now they both have to be responsible for their own actions. Number 2, cause and effect. You ever heard of cause and effect? It goes something like this. Because I did this, this happened. I didn't study, so I failed the test. I jumped in a puddle, so my shoes got wet. You get the idea. Sometimes the effect is good. Because I helped clean the classroom, I got extra time at recess. That's good. Because he swiped the toy, I kicked him. Not good. Just remember that something will happen with everything that we do. Sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's bad. So, do things that have positive outcomes, not negative ones. Number 3, solve the problem. When faced with something, we have choices that we can make. Sometimes we make bad choices, and that's okay because we can learn from those mistakes. And sometimes we make good choices. When we make bad choices, that's when we start to blame other people and things for our mistakes and problems. So let's think about the choices you have to avoid the problem in the first place. Let's put it this way. I get a bad grade on my project, and all I can say is the teacher didn't explain how to do it. Wait, that's my excuse? I didn't own that. Maybe I can ask myself, what could I have done about that? How could I have avoided that bad grade? Did I think about asking the teacher to explain the project to me if I didn't understand it? Maybe I should have, because that's better than blaming my teacher for my bad grade. I got the bad grade, not her. We have choices and we are all smart people. So let's solve the problem before it's a problem. As kids, we will do a lot of things to avoid taking responsibility for our actions. Let's face it, no one likes to get in trouble, especially kids like you and me. But if we can own our part, know that all actions have good and bad outcomes, and work to avoid the problem before it's a problem, then we can learn to take responsibility for our actions. And guess what? We stop blaming others, and we own it. It's you doing what you do, and no one else.
Okay, so I really liked that video. I know it might seem a little bit on the younger level, but I feel like it's still very relevant to you guys as middle schoolers. It can even be relevant to adults. When something bad happens in our life, we get a bad grade, we get in trouble for something, a friend is mad at us, it's very easy to look around and see who's to blame, whether it's a teacher or another person or the person who gave the consequence. However, it's a lot more helpful if we stop making excuses, own our actions, which helps us to be responsible. So 3 ways to do that are: 1, owning your part, so acknowledging what your action was. 2, cause and effect. That's also known as the consequence of what you did. So if you have a bad grade on a test, the cause is you didn't study. The effect is you got the bad grade. The cause could be you studied really hard, and the effect might be you got a good grade. Both of those are consequences, and consequences can be negative and they can be positive. And 3, solve the problem. So if you've made a mistake, now you need to figure out how to prevent that mistake in the future or make amends for what you did. So it's important to make sure that you are taking responsibility for your actions and basically own them. So now you guys are going to have a chance to practice with those 3 steps. So here's the situation. This week has been really busy for you. You have 3 basketball games and a couple of plans with your friends. In addition to that, you were trying to reach a certain level on your favorite video game. While you were learning from home this week, you used your class time to do some work, but also to look up how to beat the next level on your game. You fail your math test on Friday and don't remember your teacher even teaching you the information. You also now have several missing assignments that are now zeros. You now have D's in 2 of your classes. Since you were so busy, you were unsure if you were able to make up any of the work. As a class, go through the steps of taking responsibility. 1, own your part. So what were your actions in this situation? Number 2, cause and effect. What were the consequences of your actions? And number 3, solve the problem. What can you do now? So as a class, go through these together now. Okay, so some possible answers you might have come up with. For owning your part, you were looking up information about video games during class and you were putting off doing your classwork. For cause and effect, for your consequences, the consequences of your actions are that you now have 2 D's, missing work, and that you failed a test. Now, number 3, solve the problem. What can you do now that you're in this situation? You can make up the work, you can talk to your teachers, and then in the future, only do classwork while in class. Okay, so the last couple of slides gave you really great information for after you've already done an action, whether it be positive or negative. Now, I want to talk about being proactive to take responsibility so that you don't make as many mistakes. So if you make a mistake, own it, but you can avoid some mistakes in the first place by setting a plan for being more responsible. So here are responsibility questions that will help guide you in becoming a more responsible person. Number 1, what is the situation? Number 2, what are the possible solutions? Number 3, what are the consequences of those solutions? So thinking of ways you are going to solve the problem, what will then happen if you solve the problem in that way? And number 4, which solution is the best one? Okay, now we're going to go through a couple of situations to help you practice these responsibility questions to ask yourself. So situation 1, your goal this semester is to get all A's, B's, and C's. Last semester you had some D's, so you were trying to turn it around in those classes. While you were in class this week, your friend keeps bugging you to play a game online with him when class ends. You really like playing this video game with your friend and have also worked hard to continue to increase your level. All right, as a class, pause the video and go through these 4 questions together. So what is the situation? What are the possible solutions? They could be maybe positive or negative. Number 3, what are the consequences of each solution? Again, could be positive or negative. And number 4, what is the best solution? Pause now. All right, so the answers to some of these questions. For number 1, the situation is you want to get all A's, B's, and C's, but also want to play a video game with your friend. There are a couple of possible solutions. The first is you could do your schoolwork first, and then you could game with your friend later, maybe after school is over. Another solution could be that you decide to game during class and then hopefully finish your schoolwork later. Okay, so possible consequences of each solution. So if you do your schoolwork first, your grades will likely be higher, but your friend might give you a hard time. If you game first and do your schoolwork later, your friend will be happy, but your grades might suffer. You won't reach your goal of making all A's, B's, and C's. And number 4, what is the best solution? The best solution is schoolwork first, gaming later, and maybe you will even be a good influence on your friend too. All right, we're going to do the same thing with another situation. So situation 2. Your parent expects you to be home by 4:00 p.m. every day in order to meet your sister off the bus. When you get home, you usually go to the park with a couple of your friends. While you were at the park today, You notice the time. It is now almost 4. When you tell your friend you have to leave, she starts giving you a hard time because everyone is at the park right now and you might miss something. You feel a lot of pressure to stay at the park, but wonder what might happen if you get to your house past 4. So as a class, answer these 4 questions again. What is the situation? What are the possible solutions? What are the consequences of each solution? What is the best solution? Pause now. So some answers to those questions. Number 1, the situation is you need to be home by 4, but your friend is pressuring you to stay at the park. Number 2, possible solutions. You could just stay late at the park. You could leave the park and go home. Or you could leave the park to go home, but come back after your parents are home. All right, consequences of each solution. So if you stay late at the park, your sister will be scared and your parents might be mad, and maybe even something bad will happen to your sister. If you leave the park right away, your friend might give you a hard time, or you might miss something. If you leave and go home and then possibly come back to the park later, you get to help your sister and you might have more time with your friends later. You still might miss something, but you won't miss everything. So the best solution would be to leave the park, go home, but hopefully come back after your parents are home. That way, you still get to see your friends for a little bit later, but you also make sure your sister is safe and keep your responsibility. All right, situation 3, your turn. So you are now going to do an assignment in Notability that's going to give you a situation, and you are going to answer those responsibility questions for yourself. So follow the directions on this slide to find where the responsibility document is. Once you finish it, make sure that you have uploaded it into your class of 20, your grad year strategies for success. Once everyone in the class is finished, as a class, you can give students the option to share their answers to those guiding questions. Before you pause the video, I will read the situation to you guys just in case you need help reading it on the document that you are doing online. So situation 3, you are sitting with your friend Ben at lunch. A new student tries to sit in the seat next to him, but Ben laughs at him and says, "Look, new kid, you can't sit with us. Why don't you go somewhere else?" Ben looks at you and says, "Isn't that right?" You don't want to upset Ben, but also wonder how the new kid feels. Now, pause the video to give the class enough time, probably about 5 or so minutes, to finish this assignment that is posted in Schoology. Once you've finished, if time allows, you can go through the guiding questions. If you have even more time, then you can move on to the final slide. And now we are closing today's lesson with some words of wisdom from Kid President.
People, you know what time it is? Decision time. So, you got a decision to make. Don't worry. You make decisions all the time. Like what to eat, what to buy, what to wear, how to spend your time, who to spend your time with, what you're gonna say, how you're gonna say it, whether or not you put on the dinosaur costume and escape from town. Hey, it's an option, and I'm proud of it. Researchers found this. We make thousands of choices each day. Thousands of them. In fact, the more responsibilities that you have, the more choices you have to make. There's options all up in your face all the time. And on top of all this, with each choice comes a consequence. Every choice that you make leads to something good or not so good. Like that old saying, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes that reason is you ate a whole roll of Oreos in one sitting. If you excuse me, I gotta take a break. Okay, I'm back. Ugh, that was a bad decision. If you're watching this video, that means you're awesome. You're awesome. How will you make awesome choices? Here's a few choices for how you can make choices. You could be impulsive. Don't even think about it. Just mindlessly point, pick, and do whatever. Disclaimer, I don't recommend this choice for making choices. Now you can do it, but it'll lead to mixed results. It's especially dangerous while picking a wardrobe or diffusing a bomb. Can't be impulsive then. Another choice you have when making choices, don't do anything. This is a choice to not make any choices, which is a poor choice. Just stand there, wait, do nothing. It's an option. It's always an option. You could say nothing, do nothing, but fair warning, then you'll be nothing. Just saying. Another choice for how you can make a choice. Just be a follower. Yeah, just do what everyone else is doing. When you're a follower, you don't really have to think. It's really simple. Just look around, see what everyone else is doing. Is everyone just complaining about something? You can do that too. Is everyone doing what everyone else is doing? You can do that too. Is everyone eating an entire row of Oreos in one sitting? Just do that. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm back. I have to make better choices. So being a follower, you can make that choice. It's just a really big problem with that. The world needs you. So how's about this? Focus on being someone worth following. I like that choice. Another choice how you can make your choices, be thoughtful. Warning, this requires thinking. It takes some thought to be thoughtful. But thinking, that's something we should do more often. Think about, what do I care about? What's important to me? What kind of world do I want to live in? Do my choices help create that world? I want to live in a world with more dancing. So what do? A little bit of dancing. The choices you make help make the world. All of us together make good choices sometimes too. Like we all try to come together and make a big decision. Like in an election, who will lead our country? That's a big decision. Whatever happens there, there's something that you can't forget. Just how powerful you are. There are no small people and there are no small choices. You're making big choices every single day. And they make a big difference. Whether you're president in the big fancy Oval Office or not the president, or just a cable for cam phone and some cardboard. Your choices matter on election day and every single day. Real change happens right in your backyard. The little decisions that you think are little are actually a really big deal. The choices we make our lives. In your life, it's an awesome one. Make the kind of choices that are worthy of that awesome life. I'm going to make a decision right now. This world needs a little more dancing, so I'm going to dance right now. Oh, mail. Dear Kid President, seriously, why won't you answer my question? You're not really kidding, anymore. You can't be Kid President forever. They wrote this in all capital letters.
So, be the change you wish to see in the world. Make responsible decisions. Think through your actions to be your best self.